Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Cartus webinar. I am Rachel from Branding and Communications, and I will run through the logistics before we start. You have joined the webinar in listen-in only mode with your mic and camera off. If you have a question for our speakers, do enter it in the Q&A function, and we will try our best to answer them during the Q&A segment. Do also vote for your favorite questions as those will be answered first. Now, I will turn the time over to Elzon Ang, VP of Global Talent Mobility, who will start the webinar. Over to you, Elzon.
Thank you for taking care of that housekeeping, Rachel. Just to be sure, you can hear me okay, yes?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much, and good day to every one of you. Thank you for joining our first virtual webinar of 2024. I trust that your week has been going well. The weekend is nearly here, just 2 more days for many of you. And today, we're happy to welcome a large number of guests to our webinar. Although I'm not sure if you can see each other, but I've been informed by Rachel just before we started that we have over 40 participants, with a majority joining us from Singapore. We also have attendees from across the ASEAN region, India, China, Hong Kong, and even Europe. So it's fantastic to see such a diverse and robust turnout. A really warm welcome to each and every one of you. So as Rachel mentioned, my name is Elzon. You can see on the slide there. And joining me from the Cartus team today is Lee. We will be your speakers for today's webinar. For those of you I had the pleasure of meeting before, welcome back. To our new friends, allow me to introduce myself briefly. I serve as the Vice President of our Global Talent Mobility business with a focus on the Asia region. My responsibilities include overseeing Cartus operations and our businesses across the region. Additionally, I lead the engagements for some of our most valued clients, many whom are based in Europe and Asia. Now, Lee, on the other hand, she's based in Singapore, brings a wealth of experience in the global mobility field. As director of our global talent mobility business, Lee oversees a varied clientele from companies in financial services, technology and engineering, just to name a few. She also has teams based in Singapore and Hong Kong. Now, let's talk about what we're doing today, right? Some of the attendees here may remember participating in an in-depth survey a few months back. And I had the opportunity to share insights from this really comprehensive survey at various events over the past 2 months. And today we'll go deeper into the findings. There will be a detailed report. It has been compiled. You'll be able to access it via a QR code provided at the webinar's conclusion. Lee and I will spend the next 55 minutes or so highlighting the key takeaways, focusing on areas that have sparked increased client interactions recently. We are also setting aside time to answer your questions, so please submit them in the Q&A as mentioned by Rachel. She will be monitoring them throughout our session. For questions that we cannot cover today, as Rachel has said, we'll address them post-webinar, and she will share a summary of the responses. Now, before we go into the highlights of the survey, let's go to the genesis behind it, right? Why did we launch it? What were we aiming to find out? And how can we use the findings to support our clients and our employees? The why is simple. The recent transformative changes in our world, from the pandemic to geopolitical shifts, from supply chain challenges to the rise of Gen AI, I think these factors have reshaped our work environment, and our workforce has been steadily adapting to those changes as well. Our goal was to uncover insights that could empower both our clients and their workforce. As to the what, we are aiming to find out the nuances and evolving trends of talent mobility, encompassing program design, talent management, DEI, and strategies for a remote workforce, all which are elements that are morphing with the new expectations of the employees today. And finally, how do we plan to use these findings? aim is to leverage the survey insights to craft a comprehensive reload roadmap to help guide your decisions. The roadmap will be an invaluable tool for organizations navigating the complexities of talent mobility in 2024 and beyond. So, who responded? Our research has been significantly enhanced by our respondents' contributions. You can see that we have gathered data from over 130 companies worldwide, covering a diverse range of more than 10 industries. And this includes sectors such as technology, pharmaceuticals, financial institutions, consumer goods, and oil and gas, just to name a few. Now, the majority of our respondents, we expect them to be professionals within the global mobility or relocation space. And it's, of course, noteworthy that there are actually 20% primarily involved in HR, people, and talent strategy. So this diversity actually enriches our survey data. And you may find it interesting that most of our respondents actually manage to a movement of less than 100 people annually. And the next significant group facilitates the mobility of 100 to 500, and just under 10% of the survey respondents oversees more than 500 moves annually. Our respondents also truly represent a global talent pool, as their organizations are actively relocating individuals across the APAC, Americas, and EMEA region. So this global perspective is invaluable to the research. Let's talk about a really interesting data point, right? One that came out was relating to mobility volume. 70% of the respondents indicated that their mobility volume has either increased or remained consistent over the past couple of years. And this may seem counterintuitive, given the structural changes in certain industries, geopolitical uncertainties, and of course, the rise of remote work. However, this data point definitely prompted us to investigate further, and our deeper analysis revealed a clear trend. Organizations are initiating more or the same number of moves as a result of growth. Growth in the sense of expanding to new markets or new product segments. So consider the new business models and job roles that have emerged post-COVID and with the recent introduction of generative AI. Historically, the scarcity of local talent to fulfill business needs has always been a primary driver of mobility activity, and this remains a significant factor behind that 70% figure. Companies continue to relocate talent to meet the demands of their growth. On the other hand, what about the 30% who observe a decrease in their activities? Well, the primary driver here, as anyone can guess, is cost. Those organizations had to reduce the number of relocations due to a strategic focus on cost containment. Let's talk about another data point which is interesting. Let's play a hypothetical scenario, a game, if you will. Imagine taking a sip of your favorite beverage every time AI is mentioned in a business context, whether in conversations, emails, or instant messages. And I think given the prevalence of AI today, I suspect many of us will be enjoying our drinks quite frequently, right? In fact, just the past 10 minutes of this presentation, I probably mentioned AI a few times. So our survey actually reviewed a compelling insight regarding technology's role in relocation. An overwhelming 90% of respondents are actually in search of a holistic solution that marries technology with the expertise of a human guide. It's clear that both organizations and relocating families understand the complexities of a relocation and how that warrants a personal touch. Don't get me wrong though, AI's role is undeniable. Nearly 60% of the respondents recognize the potential to enhance their mobility programs, whether that's through efficiency gains or predictive analytics. There's also a recognition though that of the current state of generative AI. In particular, it's still in its infancy. There's governance and regulations that varies across the globe, and without a consistent global standards of how that technology is going to be governed. I think industry must approach AI with caution, especially in industry sectors where regulations can significantly impact organizations and their service providers. The excitement around technology's potential is palpable. But our respondents also convey a clear message. AI should serve to augment existing relocation services, not replace the human element. And this balance ensures that while we leverage AI's capabilities, we also preserve the invaluable human expertise that is essential to navigating the complexities of moving people from one country to another. After all, it is a critical life event, not a workflow ID in our HRIS, right? Now, here's another insight. This year, more than 60% of our respondents are considering a policy review. Now, such reviews might seem routines, you might do it all the time. It's important to note that the majority of the respondents, as I said earlier, comes from companies who move fewer than 100 people annually. So for them, an annual policy reviews is not standard practice. It's a significant change in their operational approach. Now, the driver for these reviews stem from evolving employee expectations, shifting needs, economic pressures, and a particular component of that economic pressure relates to how mobility programs align or conflict with an organization's environmental objectives. Let's also consider another statistic. 65% of the respondents report an increasing demand for greater flexibility within their organizations. So imagine this, reducing exceptions, not by outright rejection, but by integrating them as selectable options within your policy framework. This approach transforms a no into a yes, enabling choice without incurring additional business costs. And that's the potential shift that you could facilitate. I know Lee will provide a more detailed exploration of this topic, so I'm going to leave the intricacies for that discussion to her. And as we wrap up all this insight, let's revisit some of the earlier points I mentioned, but now in the context of key challenges faced by mobility personnel. It's a shared experience. Most, if not all of us, are navigating similar business obstacles, right? The cost of mobility has been on an upward trajectory, influenced by factors such as global inflation, supply chain disruptions, geopolitical crisis, and some organizations are scaling back their mobility program due to financial constraints or due to employees choosing not to move. What happens is that those who do move, those who do relocate, they come with heightened expectations. They're seeking a more personalized experience and comprehensive support from their organization during the transition itself. This challenges underscores the need for a more adaptable approach to mobility. Businesses and their employees are calling for flexibility to accommodate their evolving needs. And this demand is going to grow as mobility teams are increasingly tasked with supporting a remote workforce, DEI initiatives, sustainability commitments amidst the ongoing battle for talent, right? So in the last 15 minutes or so, we covered 5 key highlights from the Global Talent Mobility Survey, and this insights segue really nicely into 3 strategic areas that organizations and mobility teams worldwide are consistently focusing on. And let's look at them. One of the critical challenges expressed during our last Lunch and Learn event was the struggle to support talent mobility goals without increasing costs. I remember one of the attendees telling me that you cannot expect someone to make a snap decision on their home for the next 2 years just to save on the cost of a hotel or a service apartment. And I think this sentiment echoes the broader trend that we have observed. Despite rising costs, there's still an expectation for organizations to also optimize their employee experience, and finding that harmony between the employee experience and cost still remains a pivotal concern. Now, as you strive for this balance, you should also consider the complexities of moving employees to a more challenging location. Our survey indicates that out of the 10 most challenging locations to send people to in the past couple of years, 5 of them are countries in Asia and 2 of them are in Europe. In those 10 locations, immigration was the unanimous challenge. Also, some of you might already be aware of this. Vietnam is the top destination location among the respondents who have moved people to new countries. Essentially, what this is telling you is that you have the challenge of trying to achieve a better employee experience with a more challenging immigration landscape while balancing the needs of the business. Which takes me to the last area of focus, a strategic policy review. Or maybe let me take this up a level higher by calling this an overall program review, not just of the policies, but also of the processes and the technology to support your program. Organizations may choose a big bang kind of approach or a phased multi-year roadmap of changes. What we have consistently seen and what I mentioned earlier is that businesses have been shifting from a prescribed approach to incorporating flexibility into their program. And that makes a lot of sense, right? Because you're moving away from policing the program or being a policy enforcer to giving your organization and your employees some guardrails within the overall program or policy framework. This approach also helps with leveling up your role from being there of an administrator to a trusted advisor. Okay, so at this juncture, I will pass the baton to Lee, who will delve into the guidance and best practices. Now at Cartus, our diverse client portfolio across various industries does allow us to draw from a wealth of best practices. And Lee's insights are informed not only by her direct experience, but also by the collective knowledge of our clients. All right, so over to you, Lee.
Thank you, Alzon, for the introduction to this second segment and for the insights you have shared. For the audience who have kindly taken time to join us today, a very warm welcome to you again. Let's get started on how to balance employee experience with cost. First, it's important that we acknowledge employee experience as a priority, more so in today's globalized workforce. As the survey shows, improving the employee experience and rising mobility costs were both ranked top 3 as a priority and a challenge with a 45% response rate. And striving for a 50-50 balance between employee experience and cost is ideal, but in reality, the scale often tips in favor of one over the other. Organizations must understand that relocation can significantly impact the employee experience as it involves uprooting individuals from familiar environments and introducing new challenges. To navigate this well, organizations need to carefully prioritize, understand the needs of the workforce, and adjust strategies accordingly. Yet, balancing employee needs with costs cannot be overlooked, given relocation costs represent a tangible financial investment. So, how do we strike the right balance? There are 3 strategies we'll discuss, extending what Elzon has touched on earlier with regards to holistic approach and flexible mobility. We will also look at how effective communication can play a role in this. It's vital to recognize that relocation transcends the mere physical transfer of an employee from one location to another. So let's look at what a holistic approach can offer. It involves considering numerous factors that impact the overall success and employee satisfaction during and after relocation. One of those factors are indirect costs and intangible factors. So during your assessment, consider how these 2 factors can shape the employee experience. Indirect costs may include productivity dips during the transition and potential disruptions to work schedules. Intangible factors may include elements such as cultural adaptation, emotional support, integration into the community, and more. We can all agree that relocation doesn't end once the boxes are unpacked. It's an ongoing adjustment process. It's heartening to observe that a significant 69% of companies surveyed recognize the importance of cross cultural training. For employees who have access to cross cultural training at the beginning of the relocation, they tend to settle into their new environment quicker with increased confidence and engagement. While upfront expenses may seem significant, the value added by skilled, engaged employees can far outweigh the cost over time. And disregarding any of these aspects could lead to diminished employee satisfaction. Thus, it is crucial to have support mechanisms in place to address them, such as offering time off for relocation, engaging a relocation specialist for assistance, and providing destination services support. So, the takeaway for adopting a holistic approach is to keep in mind that by viewing relocation as an investment in talent rather than a mere expense, organizations can justify the higher expenditure while maintaining a balanced approach. Following the benefits of a holistic approach, let's have a look at how effective communication and transparency can have a positive impact. With the diverse needs of today's mobile talent, it is key to establish an open and transparent dialogue with employees, and this regarding the relocation process, including associated costs, available support to cultivate trust and comprehension. Now, sharing the best practices of one of our clients in the technology industry, they emphasize transparent communication in their relocation program by making all relocation benefits accessible on their intranet platform. This includes budgets allocated for various employee levels and a detailed list of relocation benefits for easy employee reference. We have found that this open policy helps manage expectations regarding the relocation program scope and employee engagement level, whether it is a lump sum arrangement only or support from a relocation specialist. And this client also provides all stakeholders, including the Cartus team and consultants, access to the same level of information, making sure communication is consistent no matter where or who the employee seeks information from. This in turn empowers employees to make well informed decisions according to their individual needs. Another advantage of this is reinforcing that the relocation process is standardized and fair across the organization. This reduces the likelihood of employees seeking exception, leading to cost savings for the organization. We can therefore conclude that effective communication and transparency foster clarity, trust, and alignment between stakeholders, ensuring smooth transitions and minimizing additional cost. Now, let's move on to the third strategy of a flexible approach. Organizations have seen benefits in providing personalized relocation packages as they allow employees to tailor their support, promoting autonomy and empowerment. Many organizations are offering increased flexibility beyond traditional relocation benefits. And this can include alternative work arrangements to accommodate personal circumstances. And providing such flexibility during relocation shows a commitment to employee well being. Flexibility can also be extended in innovative ways. One of our clients offers a unique solution in scenarios whereby employees do not require their full temporary living entitlement. Unused days can be converted to a 50% cash out option, which employees can then apply towards their permanent rent. The cash out amount is calculated based on the lower of either rent amount. We see two significant benefits here. Employees are motivated to prioritize finding a home, given there is a cash incentive portion, and it can potentially lead to cost savings for the employer since temporary living is typically more expensive than permanent housing. To add to that, resources are also more effectively allocated, contributing to the overall success and purpose of the relocation program. So, as we wrap up the three strategies discussed, striking a balance between employee experience and cost is an ongoing journey that requires careful navigation and adaptation. Prioritizing personalized support and transparent communication can go a long way in steering organizations towards a balanced state that benefits both employees and the bottom line. Next, let's explore the strategies for moving employees into challenging locations. For any relocation, whether you are navigating complex logistics, cultural nuances, or safety considerations, we have to start by understanding the landscape of the location you're moving your employees into. The five elements below are the fundamental points we will review. Tailored immigration strategies involves crafting a customized plan that aligns with your organization's objectives for sponsoring employees to obtain necessary working rights in the country. Compliance and legal considerations involves addressing various legal, regulatory, and compliance related aspects to ensure a smooth and legally compliant transition. Cultural competency training involves a structured program or process designed to enhance understanding, knowledge, skills, and attitudes related to diverse cultural differences. A duty of care refers to the legal and ethical responsibility to ensure the safety and well-being of employees. And ongoing support includes having access to resources that support professional and personal growth. As Elson earlier pointed out, half of the top 10 challenging relocation destinations are situated in Asia. Vietnam emerges as a standout, with 43% of respondents having relocated employees there in the past 2 years. Despite the country's appeal, with its flourishing opportunities as a highly sought after destination for businesses expanding in the region, organizations encounter substantial hurdles in navigating immigration, safety concerns, and compliance standards. When one of my clients first learned that they needed to relocate expatriates to Vietnam to transfer knowledge for a new site, they expressed a mix of excitement and apprehension, considering the venture into new territory. They were naturally anxious about wanting to create a comprehensive plan covering all critical aspects of the relocation and form a project team early on. Having said that, with close collaboration between client stakeholders and appointed vendors, it is possible to navigate the challenges associated with moving employees into Vietnam. To illustrate this, let's dive into a case study showcasing how one of my clients successfully orchestrated their very first relocation to Vietnam, keeping these 5 elements in view. Let's start by examining the immigration aspect for this move. The client leveraged on their immigration partner to comprehend the requirements as soon as they learned that they will be sending expatriates to this new location. They were able to learn about the recent changes in the immigration framework, particularly implementation of the new labor market testing requirement under Decree 70 issued in September 2023, and how it may impact the application for the candidate and how to mitigate any potential roadblocks. This change is akin to Singapore's Fair Consideration Framework aimed at safeguarding local talent. Given the upcoming regulatory change, internal stakeholders needed to be educated to handle related tasks, such as job postings, to avoid delays. The client also engaged the vendor to conduct initial assessments, which was crucial considering the varying document requirements across different cities. Discussions also covered details down to local nuances, such as Vietnam authorities' preference for mainly only wet signatures and company stamp. There were instances the process looked like it would be delayed, but by having a project team and identifying a dedicated project manager early on to track processes and timeline, it helped to mitigate potential challenges and allowed the client to make well-informed decisions throughout the process. From a compliance and legal perspective, the client wanted to make sure they were fully adhering to local laws and regulations. The client engaged relevant stakeholders early on to gain insights into Vietnamese labor laws, compliance requirements for personal income tax, social security contributions, and insurance coverage. They sought to understand the prerequisite for sponsoring a work permit in Vietnam, which involves confirming that the client is a relevant entity and thus able to facilitate work permit sponsorship. They also utilize an online tool within their organization to verify the presence of an active legal entity and a valid business license. So this was quite a streamlined process for them. From a cultural competency standpoint, one of the client's priorities focus on equipping the employee and more employees later on with cultural insights and language proficiency. As such, cross-cultural and language training were indispensable for the employee as clients recognized that culturally competent employees are more likely to adapt quickly, stay engaged, and have a positive employee experience. Moreover, comprehensive cross-cultural training will empower employees to interpret nonverbal cues in various social and professional settings and prevent any cultural misunderstandings. It's worth noting that culturally adept organizations are often highly regarded within local communities, a goal our client aspires to achieve. From duty of care standpoint, our client meticulously researched transportation, housing, and medical care availability to ensure a secure and supportive environment post-relocation. On transportation, after a thorough assessment, public transport via taxis and Grab was deemed to be safe. To provide flexibility to employees, an allowance was offered instead of a car driver option that was also part of the consideration. On housing, market experts and local HR inputs guided the decision to opt for corporate housing versus rentals from local landlords due to its safety aspects. A comprehensive safety and risk assessment was conducted for the chosen property to assure a secure living environment. On insurance, verification with the insurance provider ensured adequate coverage for existing health concerns and comprehensive support during assignment, which gave the assignee peace of mind. The client also supported the employee with destination services for orientation and settling in to facilitate a smooth transition. Lastly, from an ongoing support standpoint, providing continuous support channels is crucial to ensure a reliable support system throughout the transition. For one, offering a dedicated relocation specialist ensures that the employee have a point of contact to address evolving challenges and receive personalized assistance at any stage of their relocation process. Encourage participation in industry events, networking groups, and community activities facilitates integration into the local business community. This in turn promotes a sense of belonging as well as professional growth. Virtual networking utilizing technology is invaluable, particularly in regions where physical gatherings may be limited. Digital platforms and tools enable the employee to connect with peers and industry professionals regardless of geographical constraints. Concluding the case study, the move was successful due to the following factors: collaboration with key stakeholders, engaging the subject matter experts early on, prioritize immigration compliance, safety protocols, regulatory adherence, and investing in language and culture training. They all help to lead to a smooth transition while safeguarding the interests of the organization. Now let's move on to the policy review header. Earlier, Elson cited more than 60% of survey respondents are contemplating a policy review in the coming year, highlighting organizations' efforts to enhance their mobility programs. Needless to say, this is in view of the priorities and challenges to improve employee experience, managing costs, and addressing evolving employee needs. For this last part of the discussion on policy review, it was centered on three pillars involving stakeholders, defining clear objectives, and mastering change communication. For the first, engaging stakeholders is really about getting buy-in from those directly impacted by policy shifts. Involving key stakeholders is paramount when initiating a policy review, as they play a crucial role in shaping policies to meet the diverse needs of today's mobile talent. Doing so also ensures that policies are comprehensive, aligned with organizational objectives, and effectively implemented. Secondly, defining clear objectives is the cornerstone of any successful policy review. Clear objectives help to provide a strategic roadmap for addressing key challenges and opportunities within the current policy. Whether the focus is on talent acquisition, retention, or career development, defined objectives ensure that policies are tailored to meet specific needs. Clear objectives also facilitate effective communication among stakeholders. When objectives are transparent and well defined, stakeholders can align their efforts, resources, and expertise towards achieving common goals. Lastly, change communication bridges theory with reality, ensuring comprehension amid policy shifts. Clients have shared that top-down support is vital as leaders' endorsement generally leads to smooth change dissemination. Also, keep in mind that HR training is pivotal to enable them to facilitate positive initial experiences with business leaders and internal stakeholders. One of our clients' best practice when they implemented a new policy involves a dedicated communication space that discusses the change. It will begin with a key message from their leader to support the change that was taking place. The vision and objectives are shared, and there is clear ownership and accountability. Regular updates will include visibility on the current state and intended future state, and ties into the vision and objectives communicated. Rollout communication includes policy and process comparison, expected cost savings, if any, and detailed materials for HR understanding and involvement. In conclusion, policy review In conclusion, policy review prioritizes people, requiring stakeholder engagement, clear objectives, and change communication to drive optimal outcomes. If you are starting out on your journey of policy transformation, I'd like to invite you to download a copy of our white paper from our Flexible Mobility series, Demystifying Flexibility Mobility, Dispelling Myths and Outlining First Steps on the Journey of Policy Transformation. This is a practical guide for you to gain insights and ideas on how one can take steps in creating flexible policies. With that, I conclude my presentation and I hope it's been useful. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will now turn this back to Rachel to kickstart the Q&A segment. Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you, Lee, for your insightful sharing. So if you have a question for our speakers, now is the time to enter a question into the Q&A function on your desktop. So let me see. Currently, we have one question, and I will direct this to Alzon. So based on your experience, how do Cartus and your downstream vendors provide support when clients are expanding into a new market and they have limited market intel on the location?
Okay, can you hear me okay, Rachel?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, sounds good. So this is about immigration and how we can help. So the most easy way to answer that is we work with our immigration partners to navigate those challenges. And of course, a lot of you who have worked with the likes of with us and with our immigration partners before will know that it consists of the immigration law firms whose work covers advisory and government relations, as well as the actual immigration service providers on the ground who manages the actual service of advising eligibility, timelines, collecting documentations, filing the applications, and so on. We do have in-house service providers in Asia who does that transactional work for some of our clients. Now, the main thing with immigration to a challenging location is, of course, lead time, right? Singapore used to be a location where you can get your employment passes in a couple of weeks. And yeah, gone are those days now with the introduction of the Compass framework, and similar frameworks are being implemented in other locations as well. So these are all meant to protect and develop the local workforce. So the key thing here is you got to factor in the time for the eligibility assessment, and in certain instances, the documentation that needs to be notarized or certified. Then there is the actual application process. And in some instances, the processes covers both home and host procedures that the employees have to manage either at the consulate or the local government offices. So the providers can definitely help you with overseeing those processes, but it is important to note, because we've seen this happen before, that the providers are not in a position to influence the outcome, or in some instances, the speed of the application as well. So engaging us is early in the process to understand the immigration landscape and the timing. That's really key. And we do partner with some of our clients as well to conduct regular educational sessions for their internal stakeholders. And that has been extremely valuable, especially when they were executing on business critical projects, like the one that Lee had mentioned just now, or the immigration regulations have changed in a significant way. Yeah, so I hope that answers that question. Lee, I'm not sure if you have anything else you want to add on your end with your, you might be closer to the process.
Thanks, Elson. Yes, so what comes to mind other than immigration was about destination services market information as well. So I thought I'll touch on that to wrap up this question too. So we do have a strong and large global supply team who acts as Cartus procurement arm to source for supplier partners into our network. So for most locations, we have a minimum of 2 destination services suppliers to deliver service to our clients. And due to our size, we can scale up if the client has a large volume as a result of the expansion. Clients expanding or researching new locations do come up every now and then. In fact, more such queries have come up in the last year. So from a market intel perspective, our network suppliers are committed to providing a regular market update to Cartus, which then the global talent mobility teams easily access and share with our clients. I also want to add that supply chain curates market updates very frequently as new changes or watchouts happen, and these updates are regularly disseminated to our client contacts where applicable for their mobility program. Another resource we leverage on is our internal global talent mobility account teams. The different teams may have more intel or be more well-versed in certain locations due to where their clients do business. And as a best practice, we tend to check in within the GTM team to make sure we gather as much useful and relevant information as we support our clients on such exercises. And if a more specific intel or type of intel is requested and requires more in-depth market research or benchmarking, Cartus Consulting can come in to assess and support the request at a fee. I hope this answers the question. And do let us know if you have other questions pertaining to this.
Yes, thanks, Lee. I do have another question, which I will ask, but I think part of the answer has already been answered by Alzon just now. This is also a question on immigration. So it says, hello, Cartus team. You mentioned immigration is a challenge for the top 10 difficult locations. How can Cartus support us in this area?
I can add to that from what Alzon has shared. I think first and foremost, as Alzon mentioned, we leverage on the immigration experts we have corporate partnership with. So we tap on their expertise in all the locations our clients do business to provide counsel and guidance to navigate challenges and changes in immigration framework. There are also resources, if I remember correctly, such as papers and webinars our clients have access to. At a file level, what I can add to this is the consultants managing the move would have an overview of the timeline, and they are copied in all the email communications between the employee and immigration consulting team. So the consultants also support the process by overseeing and making sure that timelines are adhered to and that the application is on track. And on corporate requirements, I've seen from one of my clients in particular, there are countries that requires the company or my client to be accredited. So in order to help our clients stay focused on their core strategy, our immigration partners do offer additional support to support these areas if they are authorized to do so. Alzon, anything you want to add on to that?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I talked a lot about, some of the work that we do with our immigration partners.
Right.
And, and a lot of times, in our experience, the immigration challenges tends to be amplified, especially when they are entering a new market. So I think just between, what we have addressed in the past couple of questions, I think that kind of fully answers it.
Great.
Okay. Thanks to Alzon and Lee for the comprehensive answers. We have covered the questions that is in the Q&A. So now I shall pass it over to Alzon to close the session. Over to you.
Sure, no problem, Rachel. And so there's nothing better than giving people back the gift of time. And that's what we're going to do today. So thank you for dedicating a portion of your afternoon to join us. And we truly value your time and hope that you found this session to be insightful. As previously mentioned, the survey findings have been compiled, and please feel free to scan the QR code on the screen here to access the download page. Keep an eye on the inbox over the next few days for an email from us. It will guide you to the additional resources referenced by Lee today, along with any other points that you might want us to address coming up from questions that you post to us after the webinar. For those of you in Singapore, we're excited to announce an upcoming in-person roundtable session this July, and this will be an excellent opportunity for more benchmarking and industry engagement. The invitations for the roundtable will be sent out in a couple of months, so we eagerly anticipate your participation. Once again, thank you for your presence today. We wish you a wonderful remainder of the week.